Hey everybody, David Yang here again of Home Sellers. I want to thank you all for tuning into another episode of Real Talk where I talk about real estate. So in this week's episode, I am going to talk about home affordability. Okay, so that's the most exciting topic that we have right now. If you are like me and that excites you, then continue to watch the video here. If that does not excite you, then, I don't know. I can't help you. But either way, so let's talk about home affordability, right? So home affordability is really bad right now, okay? Houses are very expensive. Interest rates are very high, okay? Now, when I say very high, that's relative, right? So a lot of people, most people that have been buying homes that are even have been in the industry, they haven't been doing real estate or been in the market that long. So a lot of people, they've only seen low interest rate environment, okay? So 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%, 8% interest is very high to a lot of people. Now, there are some people, that have been around for a while and they've seen these kind of interest rates before, okay? So they're not too worried about it, but times are different now, okay? So back in the 70s and 80s, interest rates were very high as well, but home prices were a lot lower than they are now, okay? In this day and age, home prices are very expensive, okay? So I think we have one of the most expensive markets that we have ever had. And when I talk about expensive markets, I'm kind of generalizing it. Now, real estate is a localized market, okay? So what's happening in this city might not be the same as what's happening in the next city. But overall, as a country, we can pretty much agree that real estate is pretty expensive, okay? So I just want you guys to have a clear idea of what I'm talking about. And I know it's kind of confusing, but bear with me here, okay? So what makes homes unaffordable, okay? So right now, there is not enough inventory. That's one of the biggest factors that affects home affordabilities. Now, how can we tackle that, right? Well, we just need more houses, okay? Now, it might be easy for just anybody on social media to come say, hey, the solution is let's build more houses, right? It's not that easy, okay? There's a lot of red tape in building more properties, okay? Just the permitting process, the governmental process, it's a pretty big challenge, especially to developers and builders. And it adds a big cost onto the builders' overall financing. Now, that's on top of spiking raw materials. So cost to build is very expensive. And put on top of that, what happened in our recent, or I shouldn't say recent, but the last recession, that knocked out a lot of builders. It took a lot of builders out of the game, out of the market. So we don't even have a lot of builders to go around building homes, okay? There was a lot of independent builders, small builders building homes pre-2006, 2007, 2008, okay? But when the recession hit, a lot of them left because they lost a lot of money. Not a lot of them came back. So our new construction has not been keeping up with demand ever since the recession. So demand has been going up, but new construction has kind of been staying flat. So that is what is really hitting us with affordability. And then recently with COVID, that kind of threw everything out of whack, right? Because when COVID happened, the Fed wanted to stimulate economic activity, right? To keep us out of recession. So what did? They dropped interest rate. So by dropping interest rate, more buyers came into the housing market, wanted to buy homes because now a home would be cheaper. Not necessarily the sales price, but the monthly payment that you make on your mortgage would be cheaper because your interest rates are a lot lower. We've seen some interest rates as low as 2%. So that would naturally bring in more buyers. But you remember, demand is going up, but new construction is flat, and now we lower interest rate, demand just shoots up. So what does that do to affordability? Affordability gets worse, right? But now, okay, let's fast forward it to now, right? To this day and age, to 2024, interest rates have gone up. So they decided that, hey, the COVID is over and the economy is doing great. It's actually overheating a little bit. So why don't we slow it down by raising interest rates? Now, the Federal Reserve raises what's called the federal funds rate. that does not directly affect mortgage rates, but it indirectly affects mortgage rates. So I just want people to understand that as well, because I don't want you to write in the comments, oh, David, the Fed funds rate has nothing to do with mortgage rates. Yes, I understand that. Okay. The mortgage interest rates are more tied to the 10-year treasury yield, but the federal funds rate affects the 10-year treasury yield. Okay. So again, it's all indirectly connected. If the Fed raises the interest rates and the mortgage interest rates increase, then generally that's supposed to curb demand. It's supposed to slow down demand. And that's what the thinking behind it was, but it really didn't slow down demand that much. Demand was still pretty high. But people are asking us, okay, so interest rate went back up. Why is demand still so high? Well, you remember back to demand going shooting straight up, but new construction is staying flat. Demand is still there, even with the buyers that only came in because of the low interest rates. Even with them being removed from the equation, the buyers that are still able to afford the high interest rates are still in demand. Okay, they still want to buy homes. There's not a lot of homes on the market for sale. The new construction homes, there's not a lot of those. The pre-existing homes, there's really less of those. And then we throw on top of that, a lot of people the last 2 years have locked in super low interest rates, right? 2, 3, 4% interest rates versus 8, 7, 6% interest rates. A lot of those people are trapped into those mortgages now. When I say trapped, I don't mean like they can never get out or they can never sell or whatnot. I'm talking about like mentally trapped into those mortgages, okay? Because if you have let's say you have a 2.5 mortgage, right? Well, why would you want to trade your 2.5 mortgage for a 7.5% mortgage, right? 7.5% interest rate mortgage. There's no reason for you to do that unless you had some kind of external circumstance, family life circumstance where you definitely had to do it. Then, of course, people do it. But the majority of people won't do that. Okay, so they're locked in. What that does is it keeps inventories even lower. So again, that affects affordability, right? And so local governments have been trying to tackle this home affordability issue, and they've been doing it in a lot of different ways. They come out with first-time generation down payment assistance program, first-time home buyer programs, different grants. Those are all great, but they don't really come at the issue of the supply, okay? Because if we all go back to our economics class, supply and demand. Supply and demand should balance to have a healthy market, but we all know that it doesn't work like that, right? Because there's all these different regulations that the government puts in place. And some of them are good to help us. Some of them are not so great because they're not so well thought out. What I want you guys to think about is like a river, right? If a river is flowing, it's constantly flowing, that's great. There's no obstruction, that's fine, right? We put a dam in there, that blocks the flow. So whatever gets out of that dam is still going to trickle out, but it's going to be less than what is flowing, right? And then let's just say we put another regulation as a dam, put another dam, less flow, another dam, less flow, another dam, less flow, okay? So that's kind of how the all the regulations are affecting home prices. Okay, so there's so much regulations around building, around home affordability, around access to homes, those kind of things, that it has shot up the home values, making affordability really hard, especially for low income people. Now, if you have a home already and you have quite a bit of equity, then you have a little bit more options. But for first time home buyers, especially for younger home buyers, okay, the goal of buying a home is getting further and further away from people that want to do that. Now, everybody's going to say, okay, well, what are the solutions, right? So the solutions is let's try to find a way to reduce all the red tape and the costs associated with permitting, with government regulations, so that way we can incentivize builders to come back and build, because our population growth is going to be more than what we're able to build as a country. We need to find a way to be able to get more houses on the lands, okay, that we do have. Now, a lot of people are like, well, what about like all these like junk fees that are associated with buying a home? We've been hearing a lot about the commission issue, especially with the National Association of Realtor and their settlement from this past Friday. Will that, affect affordability? And the real answer to that is, we are not sure how that's going to affect affordability yet. Now, what thing I can say is that those settlements, that stuff, that doesn't do anything to address the supply issue. Okay, so supply is probably the number one thing to help us come back down off of these high real estate values. Now, this was a big overview of home affordability, and I don't want you to take it as a doom and gloom type of video. What I want you to do is just understand what goes into home affordability, what some options are for us to address home affordability, and realistically how to look at it, what the causes are of it, so that way you can go out there, do your own research on home affordability, because in the end, everybody needs a place to live. Whether you own a home, whether you rent a home, okay, everybody needs a place to live. So it affects everyone in some way. So I want you guys to be educated consumers, educated people, but I don't want to take up a lot of your time. So if you have questions about home affordability, feel free to reach out to me or leave a question in the comments section below. I read all of them because I don't get a lot of comments, okay? If you think this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video and you think I just talked too much, please give it a thumbs down. Consider subscribing as well. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you on the next video.